Is there any chance of saving the Iran nuclear deal? New negotiations between a delegation from Tehran and world powers began in Vienna today. If you remember that deal that was signed back in 2015, which is known as the JCPOA, it was aimed to curb Iran's nuclear program and to prevent it from developing nuclear weapons in return for an easing of economic sanctions. U.S. President Donald Trump quit the deal 3 years ago. Iran then started enriching uranium beyond the levels allowed in the original deal. U.S. President Biden says he wants to return to that deal. Today's talks bring together Iran with Germany, France, Britain, Russia, and China. The European countries say Iran's latest demands are unacceptable. They're calling on Tehran to bring more realistic proposals to the table. Iran says that Western nations have failed to come up with any constructive proposals. Well, for more, we want to bring in Trita Parsi. He's the Executive Vice President of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft. He joins me from Washington, D.C. It's good to see you again, Trita. The chairman of the talks today said that he detected what he called a renewed sense of purpose at the talks. He's being very generous with his optimism here, isn't he?
He has in the past, and I think at the end of the day, you do need optimism in order to be able to see this through. Not in the sense that it would lead to any naivete, but you need to have people at the table that understand the absolute necessity of succeeding diplomatically, which means that you keep on trying because the alternative is so bad. But yeah, I do believe that his optimism or his renewed sense of purpose is justified, because at the end of the day, I do think that there has been some shifts in the Iranian position that opens up some more space and enables these talks to continue. But there also needs to be shifts on the Western side. So ultimately, we will not see an agreement unless both sides show greater flexibility and creativity.
All right, well, you say shifts. I want to be clear here about expectations. Iran is not willing to return to the old deal. I mean, they've already enriched uranium. They have no plans to go back, do they?
Actually, that's not correct. The Iranians are in the deal. It's the United States that left the deal. The Iranians are inside the deal. They're not living up to all of the obligations of the deal. And they're using a paragraph within the deal that says that if one side is not performing, other side can also then reduce their obligations. That paragraph is not interpreted the same way by the Europeans. But anyway, the point being, they're inside the deal. The U.S. are the ones that are outside it. But the Iranians need to go back to full compliance. I've not seen any indications that they're not willing to do so. I think from their end, the problem is that the sanctions relief from the U.S. side is too unstable and too uncertain. Even if the deal were to be lifted today, according to a former French ambassador, European companies would not go back into the Iranian market, because what they're looking to see is who will win the presidency in 2025. They're not in the mood of going back into Iran and then get kicked out again in 2025. That creates a major problem, because that means that the economic benefit that the Iranians are looking for may not be coming until 3 years from now.
We know that the United States plans to send a delegation this coming weekend. Is that going to achieve anything? I mean, the Iranians, they don't want to talk directly with the Americans, do they?
No, and that's a very, very big problem. I think a lot of these different things at least could be proceeding faster if the Iranians agreed to talk directly to the United States. And I hope the Iranians themselves recognize that that was a mistake not to do it. But it is important for the United States to be there, because if there are developments between the Europeans and the Iranians, the United States needs to react to it. I mean, the Europeans are essentially acting as an intermediary between the U.S. and Iran. So it's very important for the U.S. team to be there as well.
And we know that the talks in Vienna are not the only game going on. The U.S. and the Israeli defense chiefs, they have also been talking. What messages are they sending?
The wrong message, in my view. They're sending the message, or they're trying to send the message, that the United States believes that there is a military option. And if the Iranians are not doing what the U.S. asked them to do at the negotiating table, the United States will shift towards a military approach. I think that is an absolute mistake. We've gone through this many times before. Those type of threats are as ineffective on the Iranians as the Iranian escalation is ineffective on the United States. We should not be in that territory at all. We should be focusing entirely on making sure that diplomacy works, rather than thinking that coercion is going to be what is going to break the deadlock here.
Well, we will be watching these talks very closely. Trita Parsi, the Institute for Responsible Statecraft in Washington. Trita, as always, we appreciate your time and your insights. Thank you.